Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? Can I have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? Oh, what did I say? Are these the same cards that we pulled yesterday? They're very similar. We've got here our Eight of Pentacles in its upright in combination with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. So, compassion is key today. Just like I was starting this reading before we decided, like before we started the podcast, in just amplifying. If you feel triggered today, don't match energy, right? Just because someone brings something to your doorstep does not mean you have to respond in the same way. Like a lot of this work right now, this is transmuting, right? And it's really hard when we do that. And you have to remember, if you're feeling like it's wacky energy, everybody's feeling anxious. We've got the Mars in its retrograde, so everyone's feeling a lot of anxiety right now. I think it's going to be easier for Mars placements. It's just going to feel like you're a little bit more compassionate. But working in that space of not, if you're experiencing, this is the message for today. If you're experiencing something you don't like, don't create more of it, right? If you don't like it, if someone's bringing it to you and you don't like it, don't create more of it by matching someone in that space. If someone's trying to energetically provoke you, don't give them the luxury of doing so. This is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is also a lot of that reminder of looking at the past and saying, like that ability of looking at the past that caused those wounds, not in approaching situations with cynicism, right? Saying, I'm not going to let the past define me. I'm going to let it refine me. There's a lot of expansiveness, right? There's a lot of expansiveness, a lot of possibility now for new things to happen. But the difficulty is it's also the type of energy that can set you back, right? If you allow yourself to be energetically triggered, right? So be very intentional right now as it relates to navigating circumstances, right? Now, for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, again, this is a lot more of that work on the self that we were speaking about yesterday. And it is the energy that's doing the same thing in different ways. For feminine energy, this is navigating, this is working through the vector of relearning the gift of rejection. Why do we see that this is becoming so integral to feminine pathwork right now? Because that ability of understanding that when we're moving on the trajectory of our own sense of purpose, we pay that sense of regard as it relates to the thoughts and the feelings of others, right? This isn't energy that's moving forward in a way to intentionally provoke energy. I need to stress this. But when we're in that space of working with a sense of purpose, remembering that ability of navigating others' disappointment in us, right? It's painful, right? It often feels like when the feminine is moving on that pathwork of purpose, like the strong wind that they're feeling is everyone around them, all of their demands, all of their needs, all of their aspirations in relationality to the direction that you desire to go, right? Is this the feminine energy that is allowing themselves to be blown back in that way? Absolutely not. We see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy experiencing and working through that sense or space of giving the self-compassion, right? This is the feminine energy that is effectively giving that same level and degree of compassion that they often give to others back to the self. And it feels restorative because this is the energy that moves forward. And I want to say, like, I hear the feminine energy almost saying, like, I'm sorry you feel that way. Because that's, again, and this is the same message that we saw that was happening with the energy coming into divine union, if you remember. That sense or space of saying to another, if something about the pathwork of purpose disappoints those along the way, that's the feminine that says, it was not my intention to disappoint because you have too much personal investiture in what that pathwork is, right? So we see even now that this is the feminine energy that's working to heal in that way, right? This is the feminine energy that's doing a lot of that inner child healing. It's not easy, right? Because this is the feminine that's reorienting on what that feeling of disappointment is, right? While for masculine energy, there's a lot of the masculine energy that we see that's working through this right now. And this has more to do about that tightrope that we're seeing that a lot of the masculine energy is working on navigating. Why do we see that for a lot of the masculine energy, this feels more like the pathwork of healing the inner child via walking that tightrope? Because this is the masculine that is relearning their own emotional landscape. This isn't the masculine that says to the self, in order to be masculine, I have to abandon all emotions. That's not stoicism. That's not stoicism. If someone told you that stoicism was abandoning emotions, you've never read a single Greek myth in your life. Stoicism is the ability to identify the higher frequency emotions, the emotions connected to the higher self, the emotions that protect something energetically sacred, right? Versus the egoic emotions, the passion, the immediacy, the demands of the tangible body, right? That often want to override the emotions of the higher self. So this is a lot of the masculine that is working to recognize and identify where those emotions spring from. Not pushing the emotions away, not trying to become more masculine by saying, I just need to stop feeling and I'll be the best masculine that's ever No. This is the masculine energy and the energy of healing that says, I need to feel more. And I need to not be afraid of my emotions. And the way that we are not afraid of our emotions is that we embrace the thing that we fear. So we see even now that there's a lot of I want to say this is a lot of energetic shadow work that's potentially occurring right now. But this is the beautiful shadow work, right? This is what we talk about when we talk about healthy shadow work. It's confronting the parts of the self that are painful, parts of the self that make us feel shame, the parts of the self that make us feel small, right? Being able to say those parts of ourselves and say, I love even that part of you. This is how we heal. So for a lot of the energy right now, working in the context of with deep within divine union, a lot of this processing may be occurring right now. And it's hard, right? That's not easy. But healing is never easy. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we see, the same exact work that is potentially occurring right now, specifically and particularly because I see a lot of this energy going, I didn't expect it to feel this way. If this is the energy that thought that they would just walk into the perfect relationship and there would be confetti, there would be roses thrown at the feet of moving into partnership, this is the energy that's recognizing that that is not the way that it works. It's something you create with your own hands. And it's something that you prioritize. It is the self-sustaining aspect that it's dirty work. It's messy, right? It's messy, but we don't do it because it's clean. We do it because it's messy. Right? And working through that messiness, working through those complications. This is the energy that says to one another, I love you because I want to get my hands dirty. Because when I do this work, it doesn't feel dirty. It feels sacred. It feels blessed, right? Because that is the energy that feels like they're moving into that context of finding the comfortability in showing to each other the parts that they frequently don't show to the world, right? This is the energy that is releasing their shame in the process of coming into partnership. And that's how these energies or forces are healing. Well, and that's why we see even now, if there's energy outside of partnership that's looking at them and saying, it's a shame you're moving into partnership, this is why the energy is potentially separating away from it, because this is the energy saying it's not a shame, it's sacred, right? While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is how the energy in separation is healing. This is the energy in separation that is working through that feeling, right? A lot of this energy I'm seeing even now, healing those wounds of trust, feels like the messiest thing on earth, right? This is a lot of that same energy that says, why, it feels like I can see the frustration of the energy saying, I can even see some energy in separation saying, I wish I met you before all of that stuff happened. But I want to say this again to energy and separation. We are always exactly where we need to be in our path. And this is the energy I can almost see in separation saying, this is the worst time, but maybe it's also the best time, right? because this is a continuation of the energy and separation articulating and saying, I didn't expect to be here, but I am glad to have found myself here. This is energy that identifies the self, recognizes their energetic standards. And this is the energy that when we're building with, and I need to point this out, and this is the irony, this is the paradox of standards, right? When we build forth with energy that is trustworthy, we almost don't need the energetic standards because we hold them for the sake of the counterpart. So we see even now that this is the energy that feels the frustration and saying, you have to navigate the standards I set because someone crossed them, even as we're healing them, right? Because when we build into that sense of trust, it's not one that we demand trust from one another. It's one that we recognize that sense of protectiveness is honored via the counterpart that is trustworthy, right? So we see even now like a lot of that healing that's occurring. Center card in today's spread, we have here, beautiful King of Pentacles energy. I'm going to say this right now. This energy is ungrounded. What we're experiencing right now, if you're feeling wacky, it's a Gemini full moon in Sagittarius. It's all air. It's all fire. And like, you know, I mean this with like all the love in my heart for Geminis and Sagittariuses. But, you know, Gemini and Sagittarius energy is a little wacky. Like it's a little chaotic. Like, but again, that's the experimenting, like that's the force of like, I want to say like that is like the brilliance of those astrologies, right? The Gemini, the ability to be so adaptable, to literally, you know, recognize different perspectives, to be able to like almost be like the cosmic pinball bouncing back and forth, you know, like that, you know, like that velocity. You know, the Sagittarius being that like that ignition, right? That like vroom energy, right? That you know, like the horsepower. So we've got even now like this is it's like a lot of intensity, but it's very high frequency, right? It's so if you need to ground, go ahead and ground in whatever way that grounding needs to be done. Like, just allowing that to kind of build into that, because when we're feeling again, and the best way I can describe this is, you know, this is like, you know, when there's strong wind, you have to be, and this is why we saw, remember, what did we see in that conversation of the lessons that were occurring during the last cycle? The Taurus full moon in Scorpio, right? The density in the midst of volatility. So we see even now that a lot of that lesson that we were learning in the last cycle is coming into the forefront in this one, because again, it's giving a lot of that feeling that the branch that doesn't, that the branch that bends but does not break, finding adaptability, but also being very energetically firm here. This is what a lot of this energy helps us to recognize within the self, right? So we see even now that for a lot of that energy working through that, for masculine, this has to do specifically and particularly with, again, the embracing of the emotional self, right? This is not the masculine. The healed masculine is not trying to divorce themselves from their emotions. This is the masculine that says everything within me is sacred. I would not be given emotions if they were not sacred. So this is the masculine that rather works on identifying the source of the emotions. If the emotions spring from the higher self, the emotions that rise up because they are acting to protect something that is sacred, versus the emotions of the lower self, the animalistic urges, the demands of the ego, right? That often, you know, builds into that sense of saying like, no, I want it how I want it when I want it. Like, so we see that this is a lot of the masculine energy that is working to identify those within the self. And that's not easy, right? It's a little, I can see the energy going like, like looking back and forth. But that is the act of self-awareness. Self-awareness is introspection, right? While for masculine, and this is the energy that is not trying to push those motions away, they're trying to bring them closer. Because when you're trying to understand something, you don't push it away, you look closer at it, right? So for masculine, I mean, unless you're like farsighted, you know, that's a different story. But for masculine and for feminine energy right now, this feels more like standing in the face of the wind, right? Like this is more of that energy of feminine, just like feeling the wind like blasting at them, like a lot of energy, like pushing them in a direction. And this is the feminine that just kind of says, when others come towards me with something that is not mine, I don't allow it. I don't let myself kind of go with it. I stand energetically firm. I say, "Are you finished?" You work into that space of like a lot, like when the wind blows, you just, you stand firm, you stand strong within it. So we see even now, like a lot of that energy doing, like, what is this type of energy good for? Learning how to ground, right? Well, and this is happening across all of the frequencies. And a lot of that is building into, that, and I want to say this is beautiful energy right now for the energy coming into divine union and the energy in separation, because I see even now there's a lot of that stabilization that's occurring, but it's hard, it's challenging, because it's pushing you out of your comfort zone in the process, right? Like when we're feeling energetically stable, we can move out of our comfort zone, right? Because this isn't the energy that is feeling, and this was the journey of the retrograde. This isn't the energy that just stays within what feels comfortable. This is energy that finds security and stability within the self in the process. While continuing to get clarification right now, second two cards in our 5-card spread, before we start getting clarification on these cards, we've got here our Chariot in its reversal in combination with our Page of Wands in its upright. So this is navigating the frustrations right now. It's annoying energy. I mean, like, there's a lot of, like, I want to say, it's like, that's what I see that's occurring right now. There's a lot of annoyances. There's a lot of triggers. There's a lot of those, like, I want to say, like, those little energetic frustrations to a certain extent, right? But what do we see that is so vital and important in recognizing this path work right now? We're just seeing that for across all of the frequencies, this is either coming through, and this has to do a little bit with like healing from the past. So for energy deep within divine union right now, this has to do with the inner child healing by recognizing one's own limitations. I just see masculine and feminine energy being very hard on themselves at this moment, because I see that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, this is not about a question of not identifying and seeing the highest self, right? But it's feeling the space in between, right? Like, look at this. This is the energy, like looking at the higher self. And like, I can see masculine being like, I can never be him. This is feminine going, I don't know if I could ever be her, right? Like, I've got so far to go. But what are the counterparts saying to one another? You are, because every day you take a step in that direction. Every day you move a little closer to that, right? And this is the energy that says to one another along the way, it's a journey, and I love you. But remember, you may never attain that sense of perfection of the self, because it's a higher self for a reason, right? We move towards it, and then when we get there, we often forget that we forget how far we've come. So there can be a little bit of this energy right now that may be reaffirming to one another and showing one another how, and this is what I'm going to say right now to any of you right now, if you're feeling this. Where were you a year ago? I don't want you looking about where you aspire to be. I want you now to look at how far you have come. Okay? And if you're doubting yourself right now, I want you to stop looking forward. And now you see, listen, I'm giving you permission. I'm giving you permission just this once to look backward. But I want you to look backward in a sense of appreciation for how far you have come. And that way you're not, and I'm seeing you now, every time you look ahead and say, I have so far to go, you're not allowed to say that today unless you look back and say, look how far I've come. Okay? Because that's what's going to help balance right now. It's all about equal measurements, okay? You can't do one thing unless you do it the other way, okay? So, and for the energy that's coming into divine union, this is the energy that's feeling that same level or degree of frustration, because I got to tell you right now, a lot of that energy is moving into deepening partnerships. I see a lot of plans here. I feel a lot of that energy overwhelmed by those plans. I'm going to say it again to the energy coming into divine union. Look how far you've come. Where were you a year ago? Where are you now? I don't want you to get frustrated in how much further you have to go. Today's a good day to be appreciative in how far you've come. While for masculine and feminine in separation, this is the energy that is potentially building forth in a new energetic connection. And it's hard. This is the energy that is feeling the weight of the past, right? This is the energy that says, I don't want the past to happen again. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to. You know why I know it's not going to? Are you the same person that you were when those things happened? If the answer is no, then you're energetically ready to move forward. The same things will not happen because you are not the same person. And if you can recognize how far you've come, it's building into that context. It's recognizing and honoring your journey. This is how the energy is healing and learning to build trust in the process. Continuing to get clarification between our Six of Cups in its upright in combination with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify. Come on, come out. We got our Six of Cups in its reversal. You know, I got to say this right now. I just see a lot of energy right now, like appreciating how far they've come, but also having to navigate that sense or space of what is not in the same modality of healing. And I got to say, and I need to point this out now. Even I'm going to stress this. We do not qualify where others are on their healing journeys. Okay, that is never something that we do. Everybody is exactly where they need to be. But that ability of, I want to say, navigating those hurts, that's what I meant today about not allowing yourself to be triggered by energy that may not necessarily be navigating the energetic frequency that we're feeling right now in as grounded a fashion as you yourself might be. That's the best way I can articulate it. And that's why I don't want you to take it personally if someone's giving you a lot of that anxiety. I've got a lot of people in the comments today telling me all about that anxiety, right? So again, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety right now and someone's popping off on you, you know, I want you to let that like reaffirm, be like, I feel it too. And if they're not in a space that they're as introspective upon it, this is why being able to help with that might just be as simple as asking the right questions, right? Building forth in that sense or space of giving one another a little bit of compassion right now. Because I see even now, like there, and I'm telling you, it's something about to do with this particular frequency. When the energetic frequency is high like this, it can be like, it feels like, I mean, the best way I can describe it, like from an energetic or spiritual, is it feels a little lightheaded, right? It can almost feel like, and that's where we get that sense of anxiety. But that ability of doing so to a certain extent, like recognizing that's why like grounding right now is key. And if someone's coming towards you all keyed up, right? Like they're not grounding, they're all keyed up. Like, so navigate that and recognize it. Okay? Because if you're like, I'm gonna do it, like, yeah, okay, you could mud wrestle today, but it's not gonna, you're just gonna get dirty, like, don't, like, take the high road. That's what I'm gonna say. Continuing to get clarification between our Seven of Wands in its reversal in combination with our King of Pentacles in its upright. And I have to stress this even now. So one of the things I want to describe right now is this is what we're seeing here with the combination. Do you see these double sixes? These double sixes is the wounds of trust that are being healed. For the energy, this is what I mean even now for the energy and separation. If something feels similar to the past, don't assume it's the same. Ask the right questions. When you assume during Mercury retrograde periods and the shadows, you allow the past to repeat itself, right? So moving into that context of asking questions, being curious, right? This is how the energy is healing. They're not reacting to the energy from the past that hurt them. They are articulating through the similarities to reaffirm their own energetic connection in not recausing those hurts, right? So we see even now, like it's heavy, it's hard, because this is the energy that feels that anxiety or weight of something being like, oh no, it's happening again. But this is also the energy saying it's not, because I'm not the same person, and I'm going to articulate upon it instead of reacting to it. Continuing to get clarification to our Seven of Wands in its reversal in combination with our King of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify. Clarification. Look at this. There's a lot. Listen, be the force of harmony today, man. We got a lot of sixes out today, right? Choose like that like the like this, like six can be, there's a lot of healing that could occur today. But I'm telling you right now, it's requiring you to take the high road, man. It's requiring that sense of compassion. It's requiring that sense of patience. And you know, and I'm going to say even now, compassion takes courage, right? Like that's the difficulty with compassion. It takes courage. And so for masculine and feminine, I see even now that is occurring in different ways. For feminine, it is working through the rigidity of others, right? It's giving me a lot of that energy of like facilitating upon the difference of energy that feels that they know is best for the self, as opposed to recognizing and identifying the energy that wants what's best for you, right? I just see it. I just see that even now in a very large degree. That sense of navigating to a certain extent. And this is why the energy of the feminine operating in that state of being grounded is one where we can recognize and articulate that this is the energy that is healing, that is identifying the difference between the energetic forces that they're building forth upon that feel like healthy counterparts, right? Because what does a healthy counterpart say to one another? Like that trust is something that we create together and we share. And I see even now that being able to facilitate forward in that way, it feels productive. It feels expansive. It feels energetically restorative. But this is a lot of the feminine energy that is building into that context of trusting themselves and their own path work, right? While for masculine energy today, this is the masculine that is doing that heavy work and learning to embrace the emotions, right? This is the masculine that's relearning or reorienting to their own emotional nature via looking at circumstances and saying, I'm not going to just push those emotions away. I'm going to bring them closer to the self. Because when you master, like when you come into that space of feeling like success over something, you don't avoid it. You energetically confront it, right? So I see even now, like this is a lot of the energy of the masculine that is doing that integral work of identifying the difference between the egoic emotions, right? The emotions that just want what they want when they want them versus those higher emotions, the energy that moves forward or feels that sense of protectiveness. Those energies of like, it's giving me a lot of that like agape energy, the energy of compassion, like the energy of peace, like the energy of like sustaining into that feeling of the higher self, right? Continuing to get clarification here between our King of Pentacles in its upright in combination with our Chariot in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Four of Swords in its reversal. The thing about this right now, and again, I'm going to say it, we're still in the Mercury retrograde, right? It's triggering. It can feel very triggering. And navigating those energetic triggers, and I want to say this even now, the past does not energetically repeat because you are not the same as you were, right? There's a profound amount of healing that we see that potentially is occurring today, specifically and particularly because I see even now that sense or that space in identifying and recognizing how far you have come. This is why when we identify a trigger, we are already separate from it because the ability to identify a trigger is the ability to be able to step outside of the past self and see what used to trigger the self, right? So I see even now, like for a lot of this energy, being able to facilitate forward in that fashion, simply being able to articulate upon the fact of saying something that triggers the self, as opposed to feeling energetically triggered. I just recognize that for a lot of that energy, this is the fundamental breakthrough that's occurring right now. like that's the fundamental breakthrough. This is the energy that says it's triggering instead of being triggered, right? So again, if you're saying that, congratulations. like congratulations. Okay? You're learning to identify your triggers. And continuing to get clarification, and that's happening across all of the frequencies. And a lot of this right now, I have to say, a lot of this is also the recognition and identification of priorities. You know, like I just want to say even now, like this is, like it's giving me a lot of that sense of navigating something with compassion and saying, like, I'm not going to be a part of the problem. I'm trying to work towards that healthy solution, right? It's all about what's productive today. Continuing to get clarification between our Chariot card in its reversal and our Page of Wands in its upright. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Four of Cups in its upright. You know, the only thing, like, I gotta stress this right now. This is something that could be happening. I'm gonna explain that this could be happening right now with the combination, okay? With the combination of the Gemini energy with the Sagittarius, you may be dealing with a lot of people changing their mind on things, right? Like there could be a lot of this going back and forth. And that's the only thing that we're seeing right now, because unfortunately, the combination of the Gemini full moon hangover with the Sagittarius, it's a little bit about, it's picky, right? There's a lot of pickiness right now. Why? Because Sagittarius is about like, is moving very quickly, right? Sometimes Sagittarius is like, it's like a lot of that like revving energy. And then we've got the Gemini, which bounces back and forth between things. So you could be in that modality right now where you're getting frustrated via either another's indecisiveness or getting frustrated with your own indecisiveness, right? Which is why I want you to ground today in intentionality. Don't get frustrated, get focused, right? And don't work towards getting like, don't overcomplicate things, right? Because this could also be that feeling of someone being frustrated as it relates to overcomplications. So just be mindful of that today, right? Continuing to get clarification between our Six of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Six of Wands in its upright. You see this volatility here? This like back and forth, like, you know, like one card to clarify. Clarification. I just need to wait. I need to pause right now. And again, if you want, I would love, if you are listening to this, make sure that you head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com, so that you can actually see today's spread, because there's something very interesting that's happening right now in relationality to the cards. This second row, we've got double sixes here. You see this? See this? All right. And double fours. Okay. So a lot of that appreciation in potentially how far you've come, but also that feeling of looking back at the past today. So the combination right now, the clarification between the double six energy is, we've got here our Knight of Cups in its reversal. So again, more of this conversation right now that's occurring, and this is why it's having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. Masculine energy right now, this is hitting more of the emotional area, right? Like it's hard doing that work, especially around the ego. But I want to say the masculine energy that's working on healing right now, this is the masculine energy that's working to identify and say, that's just my ego. Right? Like that's like when we're working in that space, like that ability of identifying that, you know, like feeling that frustration, if you will. I almost just see, to a certain extent, that like a lot of that energy is like recognizing and identifying like the sense or space that all, and this is what's important, right? Like this is what we have to talk about. And masculine, I see a lot of the masculine energy that's like working through this to a certain degree. When we when we let when we let our ego take the wheel, it usually drives us in the direction oppositional to the one that we desire to go in, right? Like the ego wants to be like, I'll show them. Like, I'll show them I know how to drive. Like, I'll show them I know I can steer somewhere in any direction. And it's like, yeah, you can. But, you know, I can almost see the higher self saying to the masculine, is that the direction you really want to go in? And be like, no. And be like, well, why are you driving in that direction? And masculine being like, to prove up. Oh, I let the ego take the wheel. Like, you know, because the ego, like, again, much like a child, right? Like the higher self is like, where do you want to go? And the ego is like, I want to show you I can drive. Like, so a lot of that energy today, this may be frustrating. This may be a lot of work right now for masculine energy, because it may be feeling like you're having a lot of argumentation between the higher self and the ego right now. While for feminine energy, this work that we're seeing has more to do with not allowing another person's emotions to steer you off your own course to a certain extent, right? Because like a lot of the feminine energy facilitating forward in that fashion, I just recognize and identify that this is the feminine energy. I can just hear a lot of the feminine energy saying to a certain extent in spaces or places of being triggered or triggering others, I'm sorry you feel that way, right? And that's not and I want to say this for the healed feminine, that's not the healed feminine that is belittling or diminishing another person's emotions. This is the feminine energy that literally says to another in that modality, it was not my intent or purpose to cause you energetic pain in that way, right? That it was not something that was focused upon you. Because when we're moving on pathwork of purpose, we do so with compassion. But if that creates that space that it inadvertently causes a feeling of conflict in another, we try to navigate it with a sense of compassion while also maintaining our strong, healthy, energetic boundaries. So you can see even now, like, there's a lot of this today. So don't get triggered. Continuing to get clarification between our Six of Wands in combination with our Four of Swords in its reversal. And this is what bothers me here, is like that Four of Swords. I mean, the Four of Swords in its reversal. Yeah, oof, good. I love this. We've got our Five of Wands in its upright, right? When we don't allow, and again, and this is why we see even now, it's not about abandoning the ego, okay? It's not about abandoning the ego. The ego is necessary. Everything we have is necessary. This is more of the same conversation in recognizing a healthy shield. A healthy shield is one that protects but does not get in the way of being able to see. So a lot of this energy that I see even now, the breakthrough that's happening, has to do with a lot of energy healing the egoic self. And it is different right now for masculine and feminine. For masculine, it's potentially like carving that shield down a little. It's allowing that sense of intimacy in. It's being able to see over it, right? So, and for feminine, it's building it up. Right? So we see even now, this is why this energy right now is an amazing opportunity for new energetic connections to form, because you see even now that with the masculine energy that is working on repairing the ego by seeing over it, being able to see and recognize what is the egoic self versus the higher self, and the feminine building it up, setting those energetic boundaries in relationality to their pathwork and working to like healing from the disappointments of others in the process. The possibility of healthy partnership right now is really, really good. Like really, really good. And this is the energy that's like finding themselves in that space of, again, having far to go, looking and recognizing how far they've come. What happens when you're in that? You are present. You are appreciative of where you are. So a lot of grounding right now, a lot of new opportunities are potentially happening right now for energy in separation, but it probably feels really difficult, right? Because it's that space of saying, I'm not going to let something that feels similar to the past, I'm not going to assume that's happening again. I'm going to ask the questions. I'm not going to let my ego drive me in the direction oppositional to the one that I desire to go in. I'm going to recognize what is healthy, and I'm going to let that intentionality guide, right? So a lot of that, like trusting in the process, but again, saying to the self, is there anything that I've seen in the present that would give cause or pause, right? That is how the energy is building with the intentionality as it relates to consistency and trust going forward. And that's happening for masculine and feminine. While for the energy coming into divine union, I just see that a lot of this energy is making, like I'm seeing, making peace with the landscape that is shifting around them as they move deeper into divine union. This is the energy that says when we move into divine union, we can't please everyone. But that's why when we're building into healthy partnerships, we don't do it for effect. We don't do it and then look around and be like, ooh, what's everybody saying? No, we don't do that. You do it for effect. You do it because it's affecting you, because you recognize that path work from within. So we see even now there's a lot of that energy that, like, even though this may be creating this, they're leaving a space for compassion. But they're saying it's not where their attention is directed. Their attention is directed towards counterpart and what they're building forth with at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep within divine union, a lot of this energy that we're seeing right now deep within divine union is facilitating and recognizing what that work is. And for a lot of that energy, this is the energy that is working on healing themselves in the process. Because this is the energy that says to one another, it's not our job to be perfect, but recognizing and appreciating how far you've come. This is the energy that when they feel that sense of being too hard on themselves, they look back, right? Because when you're working on that pathwork of purpose, it's not so much about where you have to go, but sometimes it's about appreciating the progress and being grateful in terms of where that journey has led you, right? Continuing to get clarification between our Four of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Four of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Liking this energy. We've got here our 10 of Swords in its upright. So this is good. This is I gotta say, yesterday's read was pretty heavy. Like yesterday's read was an intense reading. There was a lot of heavy cards there. I just want to point out, especially around the midpoint of the day, we had this card. I got to point this out. We had this card in almost the same exact position, but it was in its upright. So there's a lot of this like feeling. I want to say a lot of this that we're seeing right now across all the frequencies is like moving with intentionality, right? And it's just that recognition that when we move in with intentionality, we surrender the energetic outcome to a certain extent. You know, we move into that space of being mindful. And this is also, I want to say, recognizing and understanding nuance. For masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is why I see that, like, building trust right now, it's like taking a step into the dark, but every step you find your footing, right? Because these are the energies that are doing so together. And this is the energy that isn't just rushing that progress. This is the energy that, like, via V consistency, right? Like every step here, it feels like they are restoring their faith in something. And what they're restoring, and it's interesting because they're via V, the connections that they're building in separation, they're learning to trust again, right? And that's difficult, right? Because this is the energy that says, in order to move forward, I'm always feeling like I'm moving towards the thing that energetically hurt me. I'm putting my trust in something that I cannot see. But this is the healthy energy that says, I'm not asking you to step forward blindly. I'm asking you to trust me. And that's that journey that we experience together, because this is the energy that says, I am also doing that. And every step I take with you, we're taking together, right? So I see even now there's a lot of new healthy partnerships that's forming, and closure is happening in the process, because recognizing the nuance between hesitation, the energy that paused because they were dragging their feet. They didn't want something to change. They wanted something to stay the same. They didn't want to move forward towards manifestation goals. Versus the energy that moves with trepidation, that moves eagerly and provides clarity as they can, but moves carefully because what they consider that they're creating with one another is sacred. I just see a lot of this energy that's healing in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into union, this is the energy that's making peace with the difference between those who, again, articulated trepidation in relationality to those partnerships forming, especially if those were partnerships that were working to heal themselves from now since the eclipse season, versus the energy that it's experiencing hesitation, like a lack of joy in relationality to seeing someone like move forward onto their energetic journey, which is why I see even now, if this is the energy that says to one another, like it's a shame, being like, it's not a shame, it's sacred, right? Like that's the energy that says, like you just correct, like you're misconceiving something, right? So this is the energy that recognizes like who's embodying their reality and who's not in relationality to how another is perceiving the partnership. And this isn't the energy that's like focused or fixated on another person's like perception of it. That's why the energy holds it and has a moment of saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, because this is the energy that says, it wasn't my intention to create effect. This is something that I'm telling you because I've been affected by it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, I'm just seeing that a lot of this work right now, this is the energy that is giving each other peace and support along that journey. This is the energy that reaffirms our own commitment to one another and saying our job is not to be perfect. Our job is to try to be perfect. Because in that journey of trying to be perfect, we find our higher selves in the process. And if you're hard on yourself on that journey, then you're probably doing it right. But don't be too hard on yourself, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Cups in its reversal and our Five of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. I like it. What's productive? We've got a lot of strong energy here. A lot of strong 4, 6, 8 energy today. So this is good. There's a lot of productivity here. There's a lot of work, but it feels this is a day of appreciation of how far one has come. Appreciation of one's own progress. So again, if you're feeling frustrated today around yourself and where you find yourself, you're not allowed to feel like that until you tell me where you were a year ago. You're not allowed to say that in terms of like, unless you're telling me like what, if you feel like what that changes, because this is to me like a big day for planning and progress and also potential breakthroughs in terms, but it starts with feeling that sense of affirmation in recognition to how far you've come. Continuing to get clarification between our Five of Wands in its reversal in combination with our 10 of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. I love it. We've got here our Ace of Swords in its upright. This is a lot of that feeling of energetic breakthrough here. A lot of that same feeling, right? This is, I need to stress this. This is what we were like. This is what we can experience, and it got us like one of the things we have to be mindful about right now is Mars is going to be in its retrograde until about February, right? So working through that, finding the energetic courage, like this is a lot of that work that we're facilitating upon right now. But this is that same work that we see that is fundamental, because this is not the energy that is being distracted or letting themselves get into a panic over things that are outside of their own energetic control. This is a lot of that energy that just works very fixedly in relationality to what is achievable, right? A lot of that energy that just focuses on what feels like it creates stability. So a lot of that right now, I'm just seeing there's practicality here, but there's practicality and there's also progress. It's tangible. And there's a lot of that feeling I see even now about appreciation in relationality to one's own journey and one's own efforts. Now, this is having a different impact depending on where you find yourselves on the frequency cycles. For masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is the energy that says, in order to heal, I need to do the thing that hurt me. And that's frustrating. Like, that's painful, right? But this is also the energy that says, when I do the thing that hurt me, when I learn to trust again, I look back on the past that didn't, and I deny it. I say, you were not the rule. You were the exception to the rule. Trust is never the wrong decision. It is utilizing the discernment in terms of how we build forth. So we see even now that a lot of that energy facilitating forward in that way, it feels stabilizing. It feels affirming, because these are the energies in separation that are building that trust to one another, brick by brick, day by day. And every day that feeling of trust reawakens. It grows. It starts to come back again. So I see a lot of this energy in separation, that the healing that's coming through is the process of giving each other the gift of learning how to trust again. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union. A lot of this energy that I'm recognizing and seeing right now coming into divine union. This is the energy, if they were experiencing turbulence outside of partnership in the process of coming into union, this is simply the energy that looks forth at that and says, it wasn't our intention, right? And that's the energy that, again, it's like when you experience that, I see the energy saying they're making peace with what they're experiencing outside of partnership. Because again, this isn't the energy that says, oh, there's energy around us that's turbulent, I guess we should just call the whole thing off. This is the energy that says they don't understand the sacredness of what we're carrying. That sacredness of union is not one that is perpetually based on what is happening outside of partnership. It is one that is integral about what is being created and healed from within. So this is the energy that looks at something and says, if there's turbulence, it's because they don't understand. So we see even now, like, there's a lot of that stabilization that's occurring by the energy making peace with what that landscape is. Well, for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, this is the energy that says, if you're hard on yourself, it's because you hold yourself to a high standard. If you want to do better, it's because you have a very strong, clear perception of what that higher self is. And the gift that you have to give yourself is the grace and remembering that will always be a little bit ahead of you, right? The reason it is our higher self is because it's always a little higher, right? We try to get close to it, right? And often we feel like we're failing, but it's in that ability of working towards it that we attain the gift of becoming our higher self, because it is the aspiration and that we hold ourselves to that builds into the person that we are. And this is the gift that the energy is saying to one another. Like, I love you because I see you in all of those facets. Final card for today's spread between our Seven of Pentacles in combination with our Ace of Swords is our Queen of Cups in its reversal. Now, I just want to show you masculine and feminine energy today. There's a lot of alignment. We've got both the Knight of Cups here in its reversal as well as the Queen of Cups. If you're feeling emotional, Mars is in retrograde. There's a lot of tenderness here. There's a lot of vulnerability. I wish I could say it's going to go away. The tenderness and the vulnerability is probably going to stick around till February. But a lot of this that we're seeing here has to do with the difficulty is especially with like the Mercury retrograde shadow, with the Gemini full moon, like hangover. It's it also it feels like the emotions are moving back and forth to extremes a lot potentially today. So especially if you have a tendency, like if this type of frequency bothers you a lot, I really want you to focus on grounding right now. I also want you to recognize and identify what creates that sense of energetic support within the self. Most importantly, I don't want you to be triggered by others right now, because that's the difficulty. For those that aren't as attenuated to the frequencies right now, it's going to be really easy for others to like allow their anxiety or their fear to drive them forward. If you're recognizing that, don't match someone in that way. Remember and hold a space of compassion. Help them ground. Like let that be, and that doesn't mean you have to be like overly compassionate, right? For masculine, it's identifying again the emotions within the self that come from the egoic space versus the higher self. For feminine, it's basically allowing that modality of not allowing another person's emotions to you affect your own perception of the self, right? Remember, especially for feminine right now, if someone's projecting something towards you, it usually speaks more about how they feel about themselves than they do towards you. Masculine understands that a little bit better here, but I think for masculine, a little bit more of the challenge today is not feeling triggered. And again, masculine, just because someone comes towards you with something, if someone's trying to provoke you, don't give them the luxury of being energetically provoked. Bottom of the deck on this reading today, we've got the Five of Cups and its reversal. I just hear like the mantra today. The mantra today. I want everybody, when you're feeling like, look, when you're feeling that moment, when you're about to say that thing, I know it, and here's the problem with it. Listen to me right now. I'm going to tell you right now, the problem with Gemini and Sag is you got the perfect comeback. You got the perfect thing to say. I can see it. Like, this is a problem. The Sagittarius is going to be like pulling that string back on that arrow, right? The Gemini's like, do it. Like, like the twins are going, no. I'm sorry you feel that way. Okay? That's your mantra today. Okay? You hear me? I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't care. And then you can, write it to me. You send me whatever that pithy, whatever that like, I told you so, whatever that little like bing, like whatever that little like ding is, like, cause like there's a bit of this here. It's not the fact that you're not going to know what to say. It says to me, someone being like, I couldn't help it. They were open. They were walking into it. They were like begging for it. It was like, like it's a lot of that type of energy. You know what I mean? So just don't. Please don't. I know. Listen, I know you're so clever. Like you're right. I'm gonna give it to you right now. That was amazing. You were so clever. Yes, that would have been the perfect thing. It's like, like just choose the path of peace, even if it feels like you're like they are. Like that's the only problem, because that Gemini Sag man be like, oh man, like what I could say it, like what I could do right now, like it's giving me a little bit of that like mess around and find out kind of thing. Okay, think with intentionality. Okay, think about like ahead. Don't not like be conscientious between what feels productive versus what feels like it would just fulfill like just fulfill the ego. Okay. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me today, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent tarot class. Our next tarot class is tonight. Have you signed up yet? If you would like to become a part of our tarot class tonight, we are going to be studying the Strength card. That class starts at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern, and all you need to do to become a part of that class program is head over to my Substack and become a paid subscriber. graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. You'll also have access to the full library of tarot church classes. That is over 8 hours worth of material, courses for you to study at your discretion when you are ready. It is not necessary to catch up. For the class tonight, I will be giving a recap in each class in terms of what we studied thus far. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we're learning or currently learn or have learned in the past. You'll also have access to if you are a subscriber to my Discord, I would encourage you to head over to our subscriber-only Discord channel if you are a TikTok subscriber, because there you will also find within your subscription a specific coupon code that will give you an additional discount to that Substack subscription. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you will also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So I want to thank you if you're just joining us there for the first time, and I wish you the best, and I can't wait to see you at our class tonight. Also, I want to let you know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for my classes that for any of my students that are seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. These classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series. That is 4 45-minute classes, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages. And also, I want to let you know that even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings, services. I post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. You'll also be notified as to any of our giveaway information. And speaking of giveaways, we have announced the winner of our November giveaway. Congratulations to our winner. If you'd like to see who won, go ahead and head over to my newsletter. We've announced the winner there. I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day, and we will do this again tomorrow.